one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Kate.
Commissioner Reddick is absent.
Okay, this brings us to the agenda amendments. Are there any amendments need to be made to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to propose a motion that we surrender the spaceport license to the FAA.
Okay, you need to make an amendment to the agenda for that purpose.
Okay. I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda that we schedule the surrender of the license to the FAA.
Okay, do we have a second on this amendment? Okay, hearing none, no second, that fails. Any other amendments? All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as stated?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We got a first and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Those opposed? Brings us to the approval of the minutes. There's no changes from the January 23rd regular meeting and public hearing. Can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented, Mr. Chairman. Second.
I got first and second to approve the minute. All in favor? Motion carries. This brings us to our first presentation. Ms. Nancy?
Yes, good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. This presentation is for the first 2 quarters of fiscal year 24. So it covers the period July 1, 23 through December 31st, 2023. And Scott, could you put the PowerPoint up, please?
It is up, Nancy.
It's up?
Yeah, hold on one second.
Great, thank you. So first slide, please. So these are the revenue highlights for the general fund. The total revenues budgeted is just about 44 million for fiscal year 24. And as of December, the general fund is at 25% of revenues collection, or about $11 million. The actual revenue collected at the same time last year was 12.4 million, or 28.8% of budget. And where we should be at 50% of the budget is about 22 million. However, it's not unexpected this time of year that we're lower than that due to the timing of the property tax billing. The tax commissioner billed the property taxes in November, and so taxes not due until January, when the majority will be received. So to date, 13.2% of property tax has been received, compared to 21.4% last year at this time. Prior year taxes are at 63.6% collected. And sales tax, which is local option sales tax, is almost at 50% with only 5 months collected. And this is abnormally high due to a fund distribution correction from the state in August. EMS billings are part of the service charges, and they are at 51%, and service charges are at 44.4%. And the courts are at 35.4% with 5 months collected, and is significantly under budget, mostly due to the collections from probate court. Next slide, please. This slide is highlights of the general fund's expenditures through December. The mid-year budget at 50% would be 22 million. And actual expenditures for the general fund are at 21.2 million, or 48.3% of budget. Actual for last year at this time was 20.1 million. General government, which is administration, finance, HR, IT, health, insurance, tax commissioner, tax assessor, etc., are at 57% of budget for the second quarter. And this is mostly due to the employee health benefits, which are at 69% of budget, but within that employee health, the claims are actually at 94% of a $2.3 million budget. And risk management is over budget at 65% due to the law enforcement liability required to be paid in full in July. And then also workers' comp is at 72% of budget with the claims budget at 87%. Public works, courts, and public safety are all at or below budget for this time of year. Next slide, please. And this is just a recap. So total general fund budget is almost 44 million. Revenues are at 11 million, expenditures at 21.2 million, with a negative variance of 10.3 million. Last year at the second quarter, the net revenue and expenditures were a negative variance of 7.7 million. And the variance between the 2 years is mostly due to timing of the revenues received and increases in expenses. Next slide, please. So this slide is a consolidation of expense by type for the general fund. And the first item is salaries and benefits. This includes wages, health insurance, FICA, and retirement. Costs increased 3% from the prior year. So really the high health claims that we had last year really have continued through this year. The next item, contracted service and supplies, have remained pretty flat from last year. Property and liability insurance costs. The increase is almost 95% from last year and is due to insurance cost increases, mostly in liability from last year. And also, as I had stated previously, the law enforcement liability policy of $156,000 was paid in full at the beginning of the year. Transfers decreased by 25% in 2024, and this is a timing of transfers to other funds, such as the general fund funds capital improvements, but it's just a timing issue. The next item is intergovernmental, and these are payments or transfers to other government agencies, such as the Superior Court Circuit, the DA, Public Defender, Drug Court, and that has increased by 24%. Capital costs are usually not funded directly from the general fund, so the variance from last year is really not important. The remaining category, Medicare adjustments, has decreased by 27%, and that is a timing of the write-offs. So overall expenditures from last year to this year at the same time have increased by 5.6%. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of the curbside collection budget, which for fiscal year 24 is almost $1.7 million. The revenues billed to date are $826,000 and expenditures are $770,000. Both are pretty close to the 50% budget mark, and the difference is $55,000. Last year at this time, it was $145,383. So both revenue and expenditures are at budget for this time of year. Next slide. This is a summary of the emergency telephone budget, so 911, which is approximately 1.9 million. And the revenue collected are the fees that the state collects from cell phone carriers, which is billed on your cell phone, your landline, your voice over IP bills, as Georgia Local 911 surcharge. So if you look at your bill, you'll see $1.50, and that's what funds this. These revenues are supplemented by the general fund, as the surcharge is really never enough to run the entire operation. Revenues are at 22% of budget, and expenditures are below budget at 44%. And the revenues are reflected so low because, as I state time after time, the state disperses this to the county 2 months in arrears. And so this only reflects at this time 4 months of collections. And by the rate we've been receiving it, I would expect it would be on budget by year end. Next slide. So this slide summarizes the unincorporated service district budget. And the budget for this fund is just about 5.1 million. The county has received 2 million in revenues to date, And most of that is the insurance premium tax, which we received in October in the amount of $1.4 million. Expenditures are over budget at 3.2 million, or 63% of budget, but they include capital equipment for fire and public works. And you can see that it's 1.8 million for fire and 194,000 for public works. And all taxes have not been collected yet, and the fund balance use is almost 2 million has been budgeted for fiscal year 24. Next slide. This slide summarizes the budget for solid waste, and the budget for solid waste for 24 is $4.7 million. Total revenues, which include use of unrestricted net position, are slightly under budget at 44%. Revenues from operations are over budget at 58.7%, and expenditures are slightly over budget at 54% and includes capital expenditure encumbrance for a compactor of 452,000. So whenever you have those encumbrances early in the year, it kind of throws off your percentages of where you are with budget, but they really are operationally under budget. And their operating is at 41% of budget. And the county also holds a reserve for closure and post-closure, and we have that mostly in CDs. And the current value on that is $7,315,000. Next slide. This summarizes the Two Rivers gun range, and the budget for that for this year is $388,000. And revenues at December 31st are 34% of budget, although the actual operating revenue, sales and memberships, et cetera, are at 48% of budgeted revenue. And expenditures are slightly below budget at 48%. And the expenditures, I always want to remind everyone that they do include the depreciation, which is a non-operating expense. Next slide. This is a summary of SPLOST 8. Actual collections to date are $48 million. And it's anticipated that we will collect in excess of about 12 million in SPLOST over the 55 million referendum. And countywide projects and disbursements to the cities totaled 29.5 million. Next slide. And this slide summarizes the expenditures for the actual Camden County projects. And the largest expenditure to date have been vehicles, technology, and equipment, which is completely spent. And this includes the remaining 2 years of the capital lease payments for the contract between Enterprise and the Sheriff's Office for the vehicles that were purchased, I believe, in 2021. And the majority of the buildings and renovations remaining, which is most of it, has been committed to the new Public Works and Fleet building. Next slide. This slide shows the activity encumbrances over $50,000 in the ARPA fund. And the largest expenditure, as you can see, is the Sheriff's Office vehicles was the most, and then the Dirt Road Stabilization Program and thank you awards that were given to employees in 2021, and the EMA Mobile Command Unit. And all expenditures and projects are detailed in the quarterly report if you'd like more detail on that. And next slide. And the full report for the second quarter can be found on the finance webpage, and that's the link to it, the address. And are there any questions?
Anybody from the board have any questions for Nancy?
I don't know.
Jim?
Thank you, now, Mark.
I did. It may not be a great question. It was the one with the ambulance. It looks like there's collections are low there. Am I correct?
Are you talking about the unincorporated fund or ARPA?
I've got to find it. Hold on one
Okay.
second. I saw it.
Or were you talking about the 911?
No, the general fund consolidation by type. The
Okay,
Medicare AR adjustment ambulances.
yes.
It was 214,000 and now it's 157,000.
Okay, I'm just waiting for him to get to the slide. There we go. So this is, you're talking about the Medicare write-offs, correct?
Where you had to make adjustments.
Yes. So when we bill the ambulance, there's just automatic adjustments for the contracted amount with Medicare. So this, at this time, is just a timing of the write-offs. There's a third party that handles the collections on EMS. And just at this point of the year, it will more than likely catch up as the year progresses.
Okay.
There's not a lot we could control about the Medicare adjustments.
Just whenever they get around to paying us back.
Yes, and at the, really, and at the amount that, you know, we bill one amount and they are going to pay a set amount, just like Medicare does for most things. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody got anything else?
I'm good.
We'll move on. This brings us to our first public comment section of the night. We're limited to 3 minutes and agenda items only at this time. Got anybody registered? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Question, if they don't mind.
You can come up and give us a comment.
Rick, man, and I didn't register because I really didn't have nothing on the agenda until, I'd like to know, and I'll get with Miss Nancy about the property tax bills. She said they were mailed out in November. I myself or several other people have not received a property tax bill and it's in February. So I just want to know what's going on with that. I've had some other people ask me about it and I thought it might come up tonight.
I'll go out and get with tax collector.
Right, I'll find out about it, but I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. This time we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a public hearing. Got a motion on that?
No movement, Chairman.
Second. First and second to convene a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, Joey.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. The first item up would be a request to rezone 1.5 acres from agricultural forestry to commercial neighborhood. Along with this will be a future land use change from residential to commercial. Now, this property is located in District 2 at 5985 Laurel Island Parkway. The applicant is seeking a rezone to enable future commercial utilization of this parcel. And I think it's important to note that this parcel does have a history of being used for commercial purposes in the past. So basically, the owner of the property would like to bring it more into compliance. As you can see here, the aerial view of the property, which is located on Laurel Island Parkway. It's about 4 or 5 parcels down from Bristol Hammock Road. This will be an aerial view of the surrounding zonings. The parcels that are the color gray are located within the city of Kingsland. As I said, the applicant is seeking this rezone to enable future commercial utilization of this parcel. So Planning Commission does recommend approval of the rezone as well as the future land use change.
Okay, does anybody from the public wish to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
Joey, what was the previous commercial operation there?
I believe the owners were doing a dock building business and things of that nature.
Kind of like a lay down yard or?
Exactly, yeah.
They did landscaping as well.
They did a variety of different businesses. And as I say, it was basically used as a non-contained parcel.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, next item.
Next item up will be a request to rezone 35.5 acres from R2, which is a medium density residential, to agricultural forestry. Excuse me. Along with this would be a future land use change from residential to rural. This property is located in District 1 at 28765 Highway 17 in Waverly. Now, the applicant has submitted a recombination plat for these two parcels, which when combined will result in a total of 35.5 acres. So the applicant is requesting this rezone, so whenever they retire, they may use it as a mini farm and build them a single-family home. This slide here shows the recombination plat that has been submitted with the two parcels being combined. This will be an aerial view of the parcels, which are highlighted in red. And this slide will be the zoning that is around these two parcels, which again is highlighted in red. And you can see to the south of this, these two parcels, the agricultural zoning, as well as it abuts to River Place subdivision, which is the projected third phase of that subdivision. So as I stated, the applicant is requesting this rezone, so whenever they retire, they may use it as a mini farm and build a single-family home. So Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezone as well as the future land use change.
Was any opposition to this, Mr. Aspect?
No, sir, there wasn't.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public would speak in favor of this item? Anybody would speak in opposition? And now we'll move on to the next item.
Next item up will be a proposed amendment to the Unified Development Code, Section 1014C3, and a deletion of Section 1014D1, which covers private water and private sewerage. Now, Section 1014C3 states the owner of a private water system and/or private sewer system serving a particular development shall allow the connection by other uses or developments within 1,500 feet of such system. As you may very well know, the health department has regulated and inspected all of our septic systems as well as wells in the past. So basically what we're trying to do here is bring our ordinance more into uniform of allowing the health department to continue this. So what we're simply asking to do is amend this particular section of the ordinance to state, when in the written opinion of the Camden County Health Department, and remove the 1,500-foot requirement that the county has in place today. This section here, Section 1014, simply removing it because the previous section speaks about sewage as well. Now, just to cover some of the health department requirements, they do require property to connect to sewer if it is available within 200 feet. And there's no requirement for connection of water as long as the setbacks can be made on that particular parcel. Subdivisions and mobile home parks have to connect to sewer if it is within 500 feet and to public water within 1,000 feet. So basically, this proposed amendment would eliminate county requirements mandating any development to connect to private water or sewer within 1,500 feet, thereby placing governance under the purview of the health department regulation. So Planning Commission does recommend this approval.
Something y'all been working on for a while.
Yes, sir.
Anybody from the public wish to speak in favor of this? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? All right. This time we need a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Chairman, make a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second. Third.
All right, we got a first and a second to reconvene the regular meeting. All in favor? Motion carried.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. The first agenda item is the Kingsland Bypass Phase 2 Work Authorization Supplement 7A and 7B with Atlas Consultants. So as this project has continued to get longer and longer, we continue to get more supplemental authorization requests. All of these funds are reimbursed to us from the Georgia Department of Transportation. The consultant comes to me first, and then we go to GDOT. GDOT approves it, then I'm coming to you to ask to spend the money, and then GDOT will approve and reimburse. So unfortunately, with all the environmental things that have went on the Folkston side, it has made things get longer. Then on top of that, they did the value engineer because the project was estimated to cost more than $50 million. So once they revalue engineered, it continued to get longer. So a lot of things that were already approved are no longer valid, and they're having to start a lot of those processes over. And along with the corkwood, we still have that corkwood issue that they're trying to figure out whether they're going to relocate those plants or relocate the road on the Folkson side. So both of those items have increased the Atlas Consulting, all of the engineered, the designs, and things that are encompassing. So the expenses will be $839,000. And then as they bill us as these items come on, GDOT will reimburse us. So the request is to consider the approval for the work authorization for these two supplemental requests, 7A and 7B.
Personally, like want for them to relocate our side of the road. Unfortunately, we can't get them to agree to that.
Just have to find the corkwood plants.
Can I speak?
Let's go ahead and get a motion and a second, and then we'll have some discussion. Now, get a motion on the side.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody want to second it?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I would like to know when this is gonna happen. From a layman's perspective, I remember the first part of that where they jumped on it. Man, they were quick to get it done, and then it just stopped. So,
Well, the original agreement started in May of 2011. Phase 1 was just completed sometime in 2021. They turned it back over. So that portion took 10 years. And I know Phase 2 started. Right now, they're saying they think that the contract will let in 2028. And there will be a public hearing open house at some point in 2025. One thing that I would caution to be careful of is the same thing with Highway 17. We're going to have an open house in 2025, and 3 years later, we're going to let a contract, and a lot could change in those 3 years.
so we're looking at least 2028.
To let the contract, and then the construction would have to begin. That could take years,
We go.
2032 maybe.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You got a first and second, all in favor? Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. The
Next item?
second agenda item is the approval of the contract change order for resurfacing roads on the submarine base, Kings Bay Upper Base. They, through our IGSA, our Intergovernmental Service Agreement, they are going to be doing milling and resurfacing. The first portion we already approved, which was the first section for them, but the way the construction is happening, their fiscal years have changed in September, so they are actually having more fiscal funding, and we're able to add a second section on. So the contractor slated to start the first week of April. They will start milling and get the project probably within 12 weeks. So the base has already approved this. I've already sent them quotes to get this completed, and the base has already approved. This will be approximately another 2,900 tons of millings. So our public works trucks will remove all the millings off the base for our unpaved road system, pretty close to like 5,000 tons in total. That again will start in April, and it's got to be completed by August. So the request is to increase, we're going to make a work order to the existing contract with Seaboard. Seaboard is already aware of it. We've already driven the roads again. They've already agreed that they can complete the project on time. So the request is to approve the contract change order for resurfacing the roads at the upper base for $1.917897 in revenues, and the expenses is $1,840,792. And of course, there is the administration fees that the county collects for the difference.
And that's 10%, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like 9, but
Either way, it's a win for them, and it's a huge win for us as well.
yes.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
All right, got a first and second for the change order resurfacing the roads on the Navy base. All in favor? Motion carried.
Yes, sir.
Or contract, would that, in essence, we have a current contract with Seaboard right now on this.
Yes.
So we just need to make sure whenever we do the change order for the base, do the same thing for Seaboard.
That's what this one is
Okay.
for, is for
And
Seaboard.
you're extending the timeline of the contract to August?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I think it's already for August. They had 1 year.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you.
All right, Joey, you're back up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item up would be a request to rezone 2 acres from agricultural forestry to commercial neighborhood. Along with this will be a future land use change from residential to commercial. This property is located in District 2 at 5985 Laurel Island Parkway. Planning Commission would recommend approval of this item.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
I make a motion to approve the zoning map amendment.
I would second that.
All right, we got a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? The rezoning is approved. All right, next item, Joe.
Next item up, we request to rezone 35.5 acres from R2, which is a medium-density residential, to agricultural forestry. The future land use change as well will go along with this from residential to rural. This property is located in District 1 at 28765 Highway 17 in Waverly. Planning Commission recommends approval of this item as well.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
All right, we got a first and a second to approve this rezoning. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Item number 5, Julie.
Next item, we have proposed amendment to the Unified Development Code, Section 1014C3, and a deletion of 1014D1, private water and private sewage. Planning Commission recommends approval of this amendment.
Can we get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? The proposed amendment is passed.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And Mr. White?
Hey, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I come before you this evening to request the Board of Commissioners consider approval of a statewide mutual aid assistance agreement to provide a framework to support mutual assistance in managing emergencies or disasters. History on this issue is the state of Georgia is vulnerable to a wide range of natural and man-made disasters and emergencies. The Georgia Emergency Management Act, as amended, gives the local government and the state the authority to make and enter into these agreements. Pre-existing agreements for mutual aid assistance in emergencies help to ensure timely provision of mutual aid and assistance and reimbursement of costs incurred by those parties who render such assistance. The mutual aid agreement is entered pursuant to authorities contained in Article 1 through 3, Chapter 3, Title 38 Official Code of Georgia. This would provide us a framework for mutual aid for managing emergencies and disasters occurring within political subdivision by the participating parties, whether arising from natural disaster, technological hazard, human-caused disaster, civil emergency, community disorders, insurgency, enemy attack, acts of terrorism, and significant events of homeland security activity. With the agreement, we would identify those persons who are authorized to act on behalf of the participating party signing this agreement as their authorized representatives concerning the provisions of the agreement. In essence, that would allow myself, the fire chief, my deputies, example, under Sean, to be able to provide mutual aid assistance to a requesting county or within another jurisdiction wanting to come in and provide assistance to us. So it really does provide a good, strong legal framework to support both sending support out and receiving support when it's needed. We have entered into this agreement as history annually for the last 6 years, and staff recommends approval of this mutual aid agreement.
Okay, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we got first and second. Any discussion? All in favor? And we approve the mutual aid agreement.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, this time we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a solid waste authority meeting.
Chairman makes a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a solid waste authority meeting. Second.
Got a first and a second, all in favor? All right, this time we need to reorganize the Solid Waste Authority Board. Mr. Myers, you want to?
Yes, sir. I call this meeting of the Solid Waste Authority to order. It appears that Mr. Reddick is not present tonight. First order of business is reorganization of the board. Are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Chairman Ben Casey to chair the Solid Waste Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? All in favor, signify by raising your hand, please. Three. Commissioner Casey,
I'm going to abstain.
thank you. All right, congratulations, Commissioner Casey.
All right, this time we need a nomination for vice chair. I'll nominate Commissioner Brandt. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor of Commissioner Brandt continuing as vice chair? 3-1.
I'm good.
All right, now this brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any amendments to the Solid Waste Authority agenda? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as stated?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Got first and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Motion carried. This brings us to the approval of the minutes from our December 12th Solid Waste Authority meeting. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got first and second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Motion carried. All right, this brings us to our first public comment section on Solid Waste Authority agenda items only. Anybody wish to speak? There are none, we'll move on to item number 1. Mr. Smith?
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The purpose for this is to request that the Board of Commissioners consider the approval of a $3 million Georgia Fund loan awarded to the Camden County Board of Commissioners by the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority Board of Directors to help finance Camden County MSW Cell 5 construction. This loan will finance the construction of MSW Cell 5. The loan amount is $3 million with an interest rate of 3.4% over a 20-year term. The total cost of this project is estimated to be $4.4 million. Solid Waste Department recommends accepting the GP loan.
All right, can we get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, we've got a first and a second, any discussion? All right. You anticipate paying this loan off sooner than 20 years?
Yes, sir.
And there's no penalty for quick payout.
It's my understanding, talking to GPA, that there's no penalty for paying it off early.
So the estimated cost, that would be the worst case scenario.
Yes, sir. That's our best estimate right now. Of course, we won't know until the bidding process is finished and we go farther along, but that should be pretty close.
We got a first and a second to approve this loan. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Brings us to the final public comment section for solid waste. Anybody from the public wish to speak? All right, seeing nobody, we need a motion to adjourn the Solid Waste Authority and reconvene the regular meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn the Solid Waste Authority meeting and reconvene the regular meeting, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. Well, Mr. Goodman will second. All in favor? All right, we're back in our regular meeting. Okay, you're back up.
Yes, sir. This is to consider the acceptance of the GFA loan to help finance the Camden County MSW Cell 5 construction. Solid Waste Department recommends approval.
Can we get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it. All right. Any more discussion on this? All those in favor? Motion carried. Brings us to the reports, calendar, Katie. County Administrator comments.
I have none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, this brings us to our final public comment section of the night. We're limited to 3 minutes, or anybody who wishes to speak.
Mr. Manning, would you like to speak?
Ricky, can you give the documents to the officer?
I asked Katie to put this in the minutes, but, look, I sent in a request for the noise to be abated according to section 810 at the gun range. I received an email back that the county is unable to prosecute itself for this ordinance. Well, we have an ordinance, we have a code, we have state codes against this noise. Section 810 plainly states it. We have a code enforcement officer that should be enforcing the codes, whether it be the county or anybody. The county's no more privileged than I am about noise. If I did this in your yard 6 days a week, you'd have code enforcement officer come out there and enforce the code. So let's do it the same for y'all. I'll give you a copy of the codes. Copy of the Georgia Injuries to Real Estate is on there. I've been fighting this battle with y'all for almost 2 years. Nothing has been done. I've been keeping a log of the county's behavior, of the nuisance noise, has been recorded, hundreds of recordings. All this, trying to resolve this issue without having to go to a court. But according to the county, they want me to go get legal advice to go to court. If that's what y'all want, then we can do this. There's no sense in it. You know you're breaking the law. You admit you're breaking the law right here in your reply. You can't prosecute yourself for breaking the ordinance. Pretty simple. Let's do what's right, people. Let's fix the noise, stop the noise until you can get it fixed. Or we're going to court, simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else wish to speak before the board? All right, if no one else wants to speak before the board, we get a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor? We're done. Thank y'all.